So we've just had the dev update for September and there's some really interesting things in there, but there's not like a great deal that we didn't know if you've been following all of the information. But it's a nice little consolidation and I'm quite happy with it for maybe your more casual viewer. But there are some little tidbits when it comes to both PvP and PvE. So let's jump in. So we know that there's 3 types of mounts. It appears that you'll get your first mount by looking at a horse head on the map, and it sounds like it's going to be north of Everfall where you actually do that quest. Now it does appear to be more of a quest rather than full on taming them, because they very briefly show you walking up to a horse and basically offering it oats. They did confirm that we've sort of already knew this, is that the more you ride them, the faster that they go. Effectively you can level up your mount and you can level up your riding profession as well. They didn't actually say that, but we've seen that before. You'll get horses at 25, wolves at 45, and then lions at 65. They did show off the first races, which is not really a race, it's more of a stopwatch time trial. But you know what? The UI looks cool, it looks clean. Yeah, it looks alright. The mount animations in this video look pretty decent, I think. I don't mean this in a negative way, but only to sort of set expectations. I don't really think you're going to be going to every horse in the wild and sort of taming them. They did talk about having a roster of mounts, which I think sort of means skins, and you're going to accumulate them. We don't really know how you accumulate them. Maybe you do go out there and tame them. Maybe that's what you do. Maybe you get these ults and maybe you just go over to the animal and you're like, yo, have my ults and let me get on top of you. I don't really know. There was some extra details about the Heartrune. Basically there's different variants. It sounds really cool. Like one of them, the more damage you take, it actually extends the duration of the Heartrune. Whereas another one, I can't remember which, you know, like there's 3 variants of it. Another one, basically you just do more damage, but it lasts a short period of time. Do you know what? Visually, that's actually very nice looking, and I'm pretty happy the way that that's being delivered. It sounds like a more special Heartrune than maybe what we've seen before. Initially, I thought it was just going to be them like hitting somebody and that was it, but actually it looks a little bit more in detail than that. Now, the next one's a little bit bittersweet for me because in the footage that we saw, there actually isn't any tier 6 items. So if you don't know, items generally have like 5 tiers at the minute, like 1 to 5 obviously. And effectively, I thought that going up from gear score 600 to 700 would mean a new tier of mats. So new food, new potions, new items. I mean, you're going to need new items anyway, but like a new tier of items. It doesn't show that in the footage. I still sort of think that's a bit weird because there's going to be new items to collect, new resources to gather, new items to craft and all kinds of stuff. But let's just say right now the footage doesn't show it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. We'll have to wait and see, I think, for the PTR. Now the screen that we show that on is actually having a look at one of the artifacts. Now I'm not 100% sure which one is the unique perk, but you can sort of see it has magnify, which is that thing where like whatever stat you have the most of, it will magnify that. There's also the ability shrug off, which I think may be the unique one. I'm not 100% sure if that arrow sort of means that that's unique. I don't really know what it is, but it says non-crowd control debuffs expire 20% faster on you. It also has Vigor and Invigorated, and you can sort of see how they get unlocked. Do they get unlocked by doing these quests? A lot of the times it's just go and kill Ancients or go and kill Angry Earth or what have you, whilst wearing the artifact or using the artifact. But one of them is craft a headband upgrade. Don't really know how you craft that. The next bit isn't necessarily new information because we sort of like already knew it, depending on your point of view or what you've known. But the base level of dungeon is getting changed to something that they're going to call story mode. I think they're going to be basically like a walk in the park. It's basically for people who are struggling with some of the mechanics and that kind of stuff. I think that's good and fine. Opening the game up to like more casual players, I have no qualms with that. It makes complete sense. And then on the other end of the spectrum, an M3 is actually going to be harder than an M10. So we'll see how that one plays out. An M1 is sort of built for, hey, you're level 65, you've got your sort of standard level of gear, you should be able to go straight into the M1. And then the M2 is sort of like the intermediary point. Now they weirdly sort of said there's less reason in a way to do the high mutation. Not really, but let me just explain. Basically, it sounds like you will get not better rewards, but you will get more rewards. Doing an M2, you'll probably have a chance of getting 1 or 2 items of 700 gear score or what have you. But doing an M3, maybe that chance will be 3 or 4 items. Do you know what I mean? That kind of progression. Do you know what? Sounds alright. I've got no complaints so far. One thing you might be happy with or unhappy with, depending on your point of view, elite chest runs are definitely staying. And not only that, they're adding some new ones in the Elysian Wilds. It sounds like there's going to be 2 main chest runs and then 2 sort of like, I don't know, sub chest runs that aren't full elite. Don't really know why they're like separating them like that, but it is what it is. The 2 main ones though are like beasts. They actually named the areas. I think one of them's like the Isle of the Savannah or something, I can't really remember. But if we look at the visuals of the one from the north, it's got like these cool jumping puzzle bits. It's got like a path that you have to unlock, and it like goes from invisible to being visible. Yeah, visually it looks really, really nice. They did talk about new resources, by the way, but not really a lot. So this sort of harkens back to the tier 5 stuff. They did mention that you'll be able to gather bananas. That was one of the things that they mentioned. If there's new materials, even if it's not necessarily tier 6, it probably is going to function effectively as that. Now, whether or not that means Asmodeum's going to be used for, or is it going to be Orichalcum ingots or what have you, we don't really know. It's a bit too early to say. I used to think it was guaranteed that Asmodeum was going to be like probably not used, but now I'm a little bit less sure. But there is going to be other sort of mechanics in the zone beyond it just being a normal zone. For example, they mentioned these like spore pods and these seeds. There's also like a spore drench, some mushroom thing that makes it so beetles attack you. You can obviously squish some beetles at some point. And one of the more interesting ones sounds like it's going to be some kind of like bottle that you collect these seeds in, and then you effectively become like a potion maker. I think this is separate from Arcana, by the way, but you become like a potion maker, and then with the potions you like do more damage and you get more loot and stuff like that. I don't know too much about that system because they didn't really elaborate, but it sounds interesting. Now, something they mentioned, but there were absolutely no details on it, they do mention something about a new reward track. Now, it sort of sounds like, if you listen to the context, it's sort of more in the seasonal content. I'm not sure if it's a seasonal reward track, as in they're just changing the level 1 to 100 system and replacing it with that, or if it's an additional to that and there's some other kind of reward system that we just don't know any details on right now. There's something happening there, but I don't know what. There was a slight hint that season 4 might be coming this year, because they are redoing the main story quest and it's actually going to take over Eden Grove and Great Cleave. But they said it doesn't quite finish the MSQ, but the MSQ is promised to be finished by the end of the year, and that would be season 4. Sort of think it's going to be the start of next year, but okay. Specifically about Eden Grove though, well, we know it's going to become a capturable territory because they confirmed that in the video. And do you know what they said? It's actually going to be the most profitable zone. Now that confirms for me two things. One, they're sticking with gold as a reward for territories, which I really do think needs to be switched. I think instead of it being gold, it should be gear, because right now the people will complain that there's not enough gold, and if you're already still doing wars and you complain about not enough gold, you might as well remove them and just have gear. But whatever, they're keeping it. And two, they're sort of artificially making Eden Grove the most popular zone. I don't know why, maybe there's something to back that up. They did mention that the fort will be in the north of the zone, if anybody's curious. Oh, I wonder if the wire fiber area will get wrecked. Now, there is going to be some changes to the malevolence area. Oh, I actually sort of said that right this time. I've been bumbling my words on stream all day. Now, it's not exactly clear what's happening. Basically, because of the fact that the zone's sort of becoming more of a normal zone, and it actually sounds like it's getting a completely new architecture, sort of like mud huts, I guess, or wooden structures, that kind of thing. Sort of feel like it's going to be more beast than Angry Earth, but I'm not 100% sure. They did talk about how they're moving some of the bosses, probably stuff like Banes, because obviously people are farming the Angry Earth trophy there, and they're moving them into a more solo area. Now, we don't know if that means it's like an instanced area, we don't know if it's open world, we don't really know too much. They did actually mention there will be a little arena, but does that mean it's a trial? Does that mean it's a 5-man trial? Does that mean there's a solo trial? Does that mean it's a solo dungeon? The wording on it isn't particularly clear. There was an amusing misunderstanding where Scott says to one of the devs, and I can't remember his name, hey, like, he goes, oh, don't tell them where it is. And I think the guy who was listening hears, tell them where it is. So he actually just tells them where he is, and then Scott's like, hey, just don't listen to me. Pretty sure it's just a misunderstanding, right? But it was funny. So something happening big in Eden Grove, which is interesting in itself. And then on to PvP a little bit. So we did get a bit of information here. It sounds like, because it sounds like this because they said this, there's going to be 3 territory pushes per day. Now I'm suspecting that they will be at different times, so probably in the evening, maybe 7, 8, 9, or 8, 9, 10, something like that. I don't really know, obviously, but it's 3 per day, and it's what we saw, right? There's like these towers that they keep sort of accidentally referring to them towers, but they've got a special name, capture points or what have you. Whoever's got the most of these, then you can get the missions done quicker and you declare faster. Now it's all faction based, that, but I'm presuming the declaration is still company based. They mentioned the word company once in this. I can't imagine it not being company because it doesn't really make too much sense. They are going to change some of the PvP missions to be more focused around these towers, because now that you know it's timed, you can sort of almost force the PvP where you never used to be able to. Gone are the days of just doing PvP missions for your 3 a day. That doesn't make any sense in the expansion. They did mention something about a PvP reward track. They sort of said the word as off, but I'm not really sure in what context. I can't imagine getting more as off from the PvP reward track would make sense, unless it's something to do with the expansion somewhere, somehow. I don't really know. They did confirm something that we'd speculated on when they actually announced the expansion. Basically, they confirmed that there will always be a war following an influence push. As long as somebody is like actively trying to get influence and they get a little bit of influence, it means there will be a war the next day. I guess if nobody contests it, then there's not going to be a war. But as long as there is a company to declare or a faction that has been involved, there will be a war the next day, they said. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's the exact same time that the push was. So if it was at 7 o'clock, it's probably 7 o'clock the next day. Personally, that sort of implies that there will be never any wars at the same time, which means it might be easier for war companies to hold multiple territories, but I'm guessing they'll do something to sort of restrict that even more than they have done now. However, I don't really know if that's the case. A little bit additional PvP content that we didn't know is that the fort is going to be locked for an hour after you claim it. So if ever there's like an open fort now on the map and you go and claim it, well, you can go and claim it and then try and rush back to get your crafts or do whatever you need to do. And by the time you've done that, somebody's already taken it, it's already swapped over or what have you. You can do it, but you've got to be quick, right? Now it will actually be locked for an hour. Now I think what this enables is that once you see a fort being captured, you've got to think to yourself, well, do I want to contest that? Or do I just want to leave it? If you want it right now, then maybe you got to send somebody to like actually go and contest it. So it might weirdly create these hotspot PvP moments, but we don't know about that. They again reiterated that there will be a short PTR. They sort of said that in the past they'd had PTRs that I think they said like 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. I'm reading into this that it'll be less than 2 weeks. I sort of feel like it'll be anywhere between like 3 days and 10 days. I don't think it's going to be any longer than that. A lot of people are wondering when it will be. I think the PTR will be this week, or at least it'll get announced when it is, and I think it might start on Thursday. The reason being for that is if you leave it later, there is literally no time to change anything. If you do it now or soon enough, then there will be time to do something. So I think it'll probably be like maybe on the 7th of September, maybe to the end of the 14th or something like that. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. If a lot of that didn't make any sense to you, then I suggest you go and actually watch the dev update. It is 40 minutes long. The dev update, I think, is mostly for people who haven't been paying attention to the news. And I don't mean that as like an insult. There's a lot of different news articles reporting a lot of different things, and you don't really know which ones are interesting to you unless you're sort of like one of the nerds who are actually following the news a lot. This video will do a good job for a lot of the people who don't typically watch people like myself or Jukesoft or something like that. But for the people who are hardcore into this, then we're looking for the little tidbits of information, and there wasn't really that much in here. However, what we did see and what we did hear, I think is positive. If you want to support me, then you can become a Patreon. That's truly the best way. I've not had time to sort out any graphics or anything like that. I do apologize, but big thank you to everybody who's become a Patreon, and big thank you to everybody who currently is a YouTube member as well. You can, of course, watch me over on Twitch, where we actually watch this live, and you got to see some insane reaction from me. At one point, I ate a cake. Truly revolutionary on Twitch. It's more fun than I'm making out, I think. But other than that, I hope you have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.